Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Altec Group Global Economy and Graphite Electrode Industry February 2023 and Outlook 2023 podcast. Let's have a quick look on Chinese economy. China is taking a cautious approach to its economy in 2023. Beijing announces around 5% target growth in GDP for 2023, slowest in the last 3 decades. About the United States, the US economy could hit an air pocket in the coming months. It has a risk of suddenly falling into a recession. The process of bringing down inflation may bring on a recession. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act adds US dollar 550 billion infrastructure spending over the next decade. Steel demand expected to increase by 3 to 5 million tons per annum. US government targeting 30 gigawatts of US offshore wind by 2030, which is a potential for 7.5 million tons of steel. And 2030 production of light vehicles forecast to increase about 1 million units. About the EU economy set to escape recession, but headwinds persist. The European Union entering 2023 stronger than projected in autumn. The European economy is now expected to escape the recession that was anticipated for the turn of the year, thanks to benign weather conditions, demand restraint, efficiency gain. Uh, Gas consumption was about 2.5% below the average for the same month over the last 5 years. Brent crude prices Brent crude prices fell below $83 per barrel last week as US Federal Reserve is expected to tighten policy further to combat inflation, raising the risk of economic slowdown and dampening energy demand. Also, weakening oil consumption in Europe and the US could threaten the market. A quick look at iron ore prices. The Chinese government announces a 5% growth target for 2023, which is below expectation, but confirms that ample stimulation from the government would be distributed to the infrastructure and construction sectors. Let's take a look at Newcastle, Australia coal futures, which fell below US dollar 200 per metric ton for the first time since January 2022, amongst concerns about sluggish demand. Warm winter, particularly in US and Europe, and also the lower natural gas prices decreased the reliance on coal for generating power. Uncertainty about China's reopening has also clouded the short term outlook for the commodity. About steel scrap in Turkish steel market, uh, in the earthquake affected regions in Turkey and elsewhere have swiftly returned to the deep sea ferrous scrap market with robust steel sales volumes driving scrap demand and pricing to the highest since May 2022. In the copper price, the copper futures eased to US dollar 4.05 per pound, approaching a near 2 month low of US dollar 3.95, touched on February 27th as investors weighed the impact of monetary tightening and uncertain demand from China against supply worries. Hot economic data in the US and Europe magnified concerns that central banks would have to continue raising rates longer and destroy demand. On the lead decreased US dollar 250 per metric ton or 10.7% since the beginning of 2023. About the zinc prices, as traders continue to weigh the prospects of recovery by top consumer China against supply worries, China's decision to set a modest 5% economic growth target for 2023 dampened some optimism around a surge in the demand by the world's largest buyer of the natural resource. On the ferroalloys, the silico-manganese prices remained range-bound last week and amidst less than average local demand in India. On the World Shipping Index, the freight rates in the shipping industry have more or less stabilized in 2023 after a continuing slide in 2022. Let's come to global crude steel production now. In the world, crude steel production decreased by 3.3% year on year in January 2023. For the uh, 10 top steel producing countries, China and Iran topped the chart in January 2023 year on year, and China steel increased production to 79.5% so, million tons, up by 2.3% year on year. Let's take a look at where all the steel produced and consumed goes to. Say, in different areas, building and infrastructure consumes 52% of the steel. Mechanical equipment about 16%, automobile about 12%, metal products about 10%, other transport like ship, rails, etc., 5%, electrical equipment about 3%, and domestic appliances about 2%. I hope you would find this information interesting. For the graphite electrode industry, let's talk about the needle coke prices. They were on a constant rise from the end of 2020 to October 2022, and now they are more or less stabilized. For graphite electrode and needle coke prices in the short term are stable. In the longer term, the demand for electrode and needle coke would be robust and growing on account of increasing crude steel production by the electric arc furnace route. Needle coke demand is increasing continuously due to the continuous increase in electric vehicle battery applications. So let's conclude today's podcast by summarizing that China takes a cautious approach to its economy in 2023, taking a target of around 5% growth in GDP for 23. The US economy could hit an air pocket in the coming months. EU economy set to escape recession, but headwinds persist. Metals and scrap mostly show a decrease in the prices amid fear of a lower demand outlook. Silico-manganese prices in India remain range-bound and among less than average local demand. Ocean freights have more or less stabilized after a continuous fall for last 1 year. World steel crude steel production decreased by 3.3% in January 2023 year on year, and graphite electrode and needle coke prices in short term are stable. So, with this, I conclude today's podcast. Thank you very much for your support and listening patiently. Thank you.